Dear students, very good morning. In the last class, we understood the meaning and definition of correlation. And today, we are going to discuss two important components in correlation analysis. They are, the first is correlation and causation, and the second is types of correlation. Let us see the first one, that is correlation and causation. The concept of correlation usually implies cause and effect relationship. For example, take the variables price and demand. What is the relationship exists between price and demand? When price increases, demand decreases, and when price decreases, demand increases. Here, price is the cause variable and demand is the effect variable. Correlation usually implies this type of cause and effect relationship between variables. But correlation does not always imply cause and effect relationship. There are situations where correlation does not imply cause and effect relationship. Let us see some cases. The first is the correlation between two variables may be due to the effect of a third variable. Let us take two group data. One is yield of wheat for the last 10 years and the second is yield of tea for the last 10 years. If both shows an increase, we may say that the figures are mathematically related. But can we say one is the cause variable and the other is effect variable? No. Here both may be increased due to increase in rainfall. So here correlation does not imply cause and effect relationship. Okay. Let us see another case. All of us know very well the demand law. What is demand law? Demand law states when price decreases, demand increases, and when price increases, demand decreases. Here, price is the cause and demand is the effect. But this may not be true in all the times. Sometimes the growth of population may be the cause for increased demand. Thirdly, sometimes correlation may be due to pure chance. For example, if the figures of sale of newspapers and number of crimes are mathematically related, can we conclude both are correlated? No, it is illogical. It is nonsense. Here correlation occurs due to pure chance. Okay. These are the few situations where correlation does not imply cause and effect relationship. The important point which you have to note is, while establishing correlation between two variables, they must be related both mathematically and logically. Now, let us see what are the different types of correlation. Correlation may be mainly classified as positive and negative correlation, linear and non-linear correlation, simple, multiple and partial correlation, logical and illogical correlation. The first one is positive and negative correlation. In a correlation analysis, if the variables are moving in the same direction, it is called positive correlation. For example, the variables price and supply are positively correlated because they are moving in the same direction. When price increases, the supply also increases. Similarly, when price decreases, the supply also decreases. Okay, that is positive correlation. And if variables are moving in the opposite direction, then it is called negative correlation or inverse correlation. For example, the variables price and demand are negatively or inversely related, because when price increases, demand decreases, and when price decreases, demand increases. The second classification is linear and non-linear correlation. If the amount of change in one variable results a constant ratio of change in the other variable, it is called linear correlation. In a linear correlation, there will be a linear relation between variables, and it can be expressed as y equal to a plus bx. And if the amount of change in one variable does not result a constant ratio of change in the other variable, it is called non-linear correlation. In a non-linear correlation, the relationship between variables will not be linear. That is, y is not equal to a plus bx. Non-linear correlation is also called curvilinear correlation. The third classification of correlation is simple, multiple and partial correlation. In a correlation analysis, if there are only two variables and we study the relationship between those two variables, it is called simple correlation. For example, height and weight. Similarly, price and demand. The relationship exists between height and weight, that is a simple correlation. Similarly, price and demand, that is simple correlation, because in these two cases there are only two variables and we study the relationship exists between these two variables. Okay, this is simple correlation. Then what is multiple correlation? Suppose there are more than two variables in a correlation analysis and we study the relationship between one particular variable and all other variables taken together. It is called multiple correlation. Okay. Suppose there are three variables 1, 2 and 3. Here we can study the relationship between 1 and 2 and 3 taken together. It is denoted as R1 dot 2 3, or we can study the relationship between 2 and 1 and 3 taken together. It is denoted as R2.13, or we can study the relationship between 3 and 1 and 2 taken together. It can be denoted as R3.12. All these three correlation analysis is called multiple correlation. Then what is partial correlation? Suppose there are more than two variables and we study the relationship between any two variables assuming the other variables constant. It is called partial correlation. Studying the correlation between crops and rainfall without taking into consideration the effect of other variables such as fertilizers, seeds, pesticides, etc. This is a partial correlation. This is the case of partial correlation. Okay. If there are three variables such as 1, 2 and 3, we can study three partial correlations. What are they? Partial correlation between 1 and 2 excluding 3 and this can be expressed as R12.3. This is the correlation between 1 and 2 keeping the third variable as constant. Okay, and another one is partial correlation between 1 and 3 excluding 2, and this will be expressed as R13.2. This is the correlation between 1 and 3 excluding 2 or keeping the second variable as constant. And the third partial correlation is correlation between 2 and 3 excluding 1, and this will be expressed as R23.1. Okay, this is the relationship between 2 and 3 keeping the first variable as constant. In case of partial correlation, we use the letter small r. But in case of multiple correlation, the letter or symbol used is capital R. Okay. The last one is logical and illogical correlation. What is logical correlation? If the correlation between two variables is confirmed mathematically as well as logically, it is called logical correlation. For example, the correlation between income and consumption. This can be the correlation between income and consumption can be defined mathematically and logically. Similarly, in case of variables age and playing habits, the relationship can be confirmed mathematically as well as logically, and therefore this is a logical correlation. Okay. Then what is illogical correlation? In certain cases, the relationship between two variables can be confirmed mathematically or by statistical methods, but it may not be possible to confirm the relationship logically. It is called illogical correlation. Okay? It is also called spurious correlation or nonsense correlation. For example, the data relating to increase in sale of newspapers and increase in number of crimes may be statistically confirmed, but it cannot be confirmed logically. Therefore, the correlation between increase in sale of newspapers and increase in number of crimes is an illogical correlation. Okay? I think all of you got an idea about different types of correlation. Now let us wind up the today's class. Thank you.